Fair, the game is over. It's a fair ball into the corner. Benamy scores. Johnny Damon gets his sixth hit of the day, a ribby single. Ball game over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
This episode is Sterling. Welcome in. I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler, voice of the Lansing Lugnuts.
And my name is Josh Suchon, play-by-play announcer for the Albuquerque Isotopes. We lost a legend, Jesse. We lost a legend in so many ways. We lost someone who perhaps was the final of Major League Baseball's broadcasting characters. We're going to get into that and show John Sterling as a lot of people know him and as a lot of people don't know him with today's Crafting the Call.
It's such a wonderful video to start things off because when you're a radio voice, you exist as a voice, not as a picture. And Sterling very much was a voice. So to be able to see what he looked like while you heard him, fantastic.
What I love about that clip too is it's not one of these like GoPros that's right next to you in the broadcast booth where you are like very much aware that the camera is on you. And it's hard not to kind of play into the camera. That might be some fan. I don't know if that was a reporter. Someone just had a good angle. And so he doesn't know that he's on candid camera at this moment. And when you see him do his shit, it's a fun way to see how the body lends itself to the voice to get that iconic call at the end.
How would you define a broadcast character?
Ooh, good question. I think to me, it's someone you just never know what they're going to say. It's someone who doesn't really care what you think, that this broadcaster is just going to do his thing, do it the way that he wants, doesn't really care, is going to do with some flavor, is going to make some mistakes, is going to have you rolling your eyes at times, it's going to have you chuckling, but most of all, it's just going to have you thinking, what is he going to say next?
I would add in, for me, that whole idea is something larger than life. The baseball characters, there's something about them that's just bigger than them hitting a home run. Like a Yogi Berra was a larger than life character. Today, a Shohei Ohtani is larger than life. The broadcast archetype that you just described, I think is typified by, to switch sports, that's Charles Barkley.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just this idea that, and that's what we're going to get into, is about whether or not they even exist, whether or not a character is even allowed to exist anymore. It's a bygone era where you needed to sell something more than just the game, maybe, or there was just like, that's how you stood out. And maybe teams wanted it, maybe teams put up with it. But nowadays, there's not a whole lot of teams that maybe even want it.
Right. You just want someone who, hey, your voice sounds professional, call the game, make the highlights sound good, but keep yourself out of it. You should not have a quote unquote, look at me broadcast. The game is what matters, and then sell the sponsors for us.
Yeah.
In a John Sterling broadcast, John Sterling was center stage.
All right. So if you're watching this episode, you probably already know who John Sterling is. But nonetheless, let's look back on some of the highlights. This was something that was put together by the Yankees. It is beautiful. And I feel like in roughly 3 minutes, we will get the essence of who John Sterling was with this wonderful tribute.
He is part of the fabric of baseball in the biggest city in this country.
For many generations, there will only be one, the voice of the New York Yankees.
The Golden Pipes, John Sterling.
Stepping up to the microphone is the voice of the New York Yankees. Here is John Sterling.
Well, Suzyn, thank you. And once again, good afternoon, everyone.
Swung on it, into the air to deep right center. It is high, it is far, it is gone. Burn, baby, burn. A thriller by Godzilla. The Bambino, the Giambino, Robbie Cano, and don't you know? Oh, he's positively swishalicious. Hell, happy time. Let the party begin. It's an A-bomb from A-Rod, the most happy fella. A Stantonian home run. Swung on. There it goes. Deep left. It is high. It is far. It is gone. Number 62. Guy Green. He's done it. That's 602 career saves. Swung on. He's going to get it. He makes the catch. A perfect game. 27 up. 27 down. Baseball immortality. Base hit. Right field. Richardson scores on a base hit by Derek Jeter. Is that unbelievable? Or is that unbelievable?
So Derek Jeter, in his final game, you can't make this stuff up. That's baseball, Suzyn.
Swung on and Luke to shallow center field. It is a base hit. Bufetta goes to second in one of the greatest comebacks you'll ever see. Didi Gregorius makes Yankee fans euphorious.
The Grandy Man can. No, the Grandy Man can. Solante. Whoa, whoa. The sun will come out. Tanaka.
Line base hit. Left field. How do you like that?
Oh, is he good? Oh, do we love Soto.
You're on the mark, Teixeira. And Teixeira and Damon go back to back. In a belly to belly. Swung on and hit in the air. The deep left. That ball's high. It is far. It is gone. I don't believe it. The most unbelievable feat in World Series history. Swung on and popped up again. Off third. Hayes has room. Hayes makes the catch. Ball game over. World Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
Well done by the New York Yankees, indeed. And here's the thing. When it comes to like, hey, was John Sterling on the mic for that game? Yes. The answer is yes. He nearly went twice as long as Cal Ripken did. Cal Ripken's Ironman streak, Jesse, was 2,632 games. John Sterling, from 1989 when he started with the Yankees through 2019, he called 5,060 games without missing a day. 5,060 in a row, Jesse.
You combine that with the Golden Pipes is mentioned from the top, and the comfort and the sense of theater and theatricality and the chemistry with Suzyn Waldman, and then the leaning into the absolute silliness of it all. Like, what a combination of different things that put him singular, that he was always going to be at the microphone, that you knew that the way that he was going to call it was a way that nobody else is calling it. And it's for the Yankees. The Yankees who never, ever let their hair down, who have banned their players from wearing facial hair, right? They are uptight. They will not wear the alternate jersey. And things are changing now, but the Yankees are the Yankees. And there's John having such a blast in the broadcast booth.
Oh, that's such an interesting point that I hadn't thought about, right? Like Jason Giambi was a character when he was with the A's. He went to the Yankees. He was not a character. Maybe off the field, but he was no longer a character. He was corporate. Maybe the only character during that entire run for the Yankees was the guy in the radio booth, the guy you couldn't see, you could only hear.
That's right.
But yet he still wore a suit and a pocket square and a tie every day, even though he was on radio.
Because in New York, what showmanship? Showmanship is Broadway. And John Sterling loved theater. Like his life could have easily put him in that direction, down 42nd Street. But he's a New York City kid. And he leaves home in order to pursue broadcasting to Baltimore, Maryland, and then to Atlanta. And he's broadcasting basketball. He's broadcasting football. He's broadcasting hockey. And then leaving the Braves to go right back to New York. And you go, this is where he belongs. Only John Sterling is calling baseball games like this. And the fact that it coincided with really one of the great modern dynasties. So you got his calls over this Yankee team. I don't think it's forgettable. I think it's absolutely memorable.
If John Sterling was calling the Yankees games from, say, 82 to 94, right? The dark years, when they didn't go to the playoffs, would that style have worked? When they were losing a lot or when they were not winning as much as they should have won?
I mean, you say that, but he was there in 89 and 90 and 91 and 92 and 93 and 94. So he was there as Don Mattingly is not getting to the playoffs. So he's there for the start of the dynasty, but he's already years in. And we know how baseball fans react in a hurry to broadcasters. The Yankees have their lineage of broadcasting dating back to Mal Allen. So that he was settled in, he was established. And we're going to go back and listen to his Brave stuff because it's great.
Yeah, well, before we do that, though, there's not many broadcasters who have the type of reputation that HBO Real Sports and Bryant Gumbel wanted to do a story on them. And so we're not going to watch this entire episode, but we're going to watch the promo where we can kind of get into the whole, what do you think of this style? And should this style be out there? And so let's watch a few minutes of what HBO Real Sports did in their profile of John Sterling.
Some games I'd say Yankees win, the Yankees win. And one day, as I was doing it, I put a little rock and roll into it. Yankees win, the Yankees win, and it caught on. And boy, am I glad.
You get into it. I mean, I've seen you. You. It's not just the Yankees win sitting there like this. You're like, the Yankees win.
Right. As they say, from the seat of my pants.
Struck him out swinging, breaking ball. Ball game over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
Some of his calls are clever, some clumsy, others forgettable. But all of his home run calls start with the same 3 lines.
It is high, it is far, it is gone.
It is high, it is far, it is gone.
Aaron Boone is the Yankees manager and a John Sterling fan, even though he's a little too busy to listen during the game.
Call it a guilty pleasure, whatever, when I'm unwinding from the day and I'll go back and just click on some of the highlights. I can't wait to hear how he called a big play in our game. And I can't wait to hear him punctuate it.
So Judge and LeMahieu open up the game as they go back to back and a belly to belly.
To those who say you do shtick, you say what? To those who say you're flagrantly self-promotional, you say what?
Well, if you're on the air, you are promoting what you're doing. I mean, it is your voice. You are calling the plays, and you call them in your style. That's all.
Josh, it is shtick.
Yeah.
It's great. Like, the current villain of our times is the Dodgers. They spend a lot. They win World Series. The Yankees were the villain of the times. If they weren't, this would sit a lot differently. People didn't like him saying the Yankees win because people didn't want the Yankees to win. But like back to back and a belly to belly, as a kid, I loved it, of course. And I love all these silly things. And I would try my own impression of the it is high, it is far, it is gone.
All right. So John Sterling, character for sure. I'm going to go through some names of baseball's most famous broadcasters. And let's just do thumbs up if the broadcaster was a character, thumbs down if the broadcaster was not a character. This is not whether or not you like them or whether they're good. This is simply character, not a character. So John Sterling?
I would say yes.
Okay. Bob Uecker?
Absolutely.
Vin Scully?
I don't think so.
Vin Scully, to me, he's a poet. Jack Buck.
And
Okay.
like Vin, and sorry to slow things down, Vin didn't want the broadcast to be about him.
Jack Buck. Yeah. I think that there'd be times that Jack's kind of frustration about what's going on in the game might show up. I don't think that he was like a full-on character.
No, and I think that Joe Buck resists it too.
I agree. Dave Niehaus. Marty Brenneman. Harry Carey. Duh. Skip Carey. You think Skip was a character? This is the Braves.
I think there was a bit of Skip that, you know what, you could swing me because there's the part of me which goes, yes, there's a little bit of Skip that was Skip, but you could easily tell me, just thinking through things, you're more well acquainted with him than me, that he wasn't a look at me kind of person, that he was just calling the game and he worked off of his color guys.
I thought that Skip had a really good dry wit.
Yes.
He wasn't
Very
coming
smart.
up with nicknames. He wasn't. Yeah. I mean, and again, it's not just nicknames that make you a character, but I thought that he was clever. He was dry witted. He was a consummate broadcaster when he needed to be. When the game was boring, he would take it off into tangents. I don't think of Skip Carey as a character.
Upon further review.
Chip Carey. I say no, but Chip, but you probably have heard him more than I have.
So what I loved about Chip when he first got going was the kapaya, right? He very much leaned into catchphrases at the start. There was very much that sense of fun, that sense of what can we do within this broadcast booth? So I think younger Chip, yes. I think that older Chip, probably not, as he's matured into broadcasting.
All right, I want to get back to the old versus young, but I want to go through a few more. John Miller.
Ooh. Okay. John Miller, I would say yes. And here's why. The Orioles days with Miller and Joe Angel, the John Miller impression days, the John Miller comedian days, the way that he uses his voice, I do think that John Miller is a character.
So I think that John Miller is a character off the air. And I was around John when he was with the Giants, and I was covering the Giants as a beat writer, and he was a character. You loved sitting next to him in the dugout during batting practice. If you saw him at an airport, you loved sitting next to him because he was just so happy and jovial and loved life and loved baseball. On the air, he had his moments where he could be a character, especially Sunday Night Baseball. He was not a character.
No, but that was the worst base running in the history. That's a character kind of line that John will let loose and blast a guy or really tell you what he feels. So yeah, let's say not a character with character moments.
All right. Ernie Harwell. Yeah. He had some like folksy lines, but I don't think of him as a character.
House by the Side of the Road. There are moments to Ernie that help Ernie stand out, but by and large, he's that same Vin Scully, don't look at me, I'm just calling the baseball game, whereas his partners would have a blast.
Jerry Coleman. I think that Jerry was a character.
Yes.
And I think he was an accidental character. Don't get me wrong. A lovely man, just the nicest, most wonderful man. But I think that he was accidentally a character with some of the things that just came out of his mouth. His partner,
Jerry
Ted
didn't
Leitner.
want to become Yogi. Jerry didn't want to become Jerry.
Right. Yeah.
On Father's Day. When his head hits the wall, it bounces off. This is a terrible thing. The Jerry lines are amazing.
Yes, and there was a radio TV columnist in the San Diego Union Tribune who would always print the best of the best every week. And it made me love Jerry even more. It made me want to listen to Jerry more because I know he's not doing it on purpose. He got caught up in the moment.
Didn't he have a pitcher throwing up in the bullpen?
Yes. Right. Jerry's longtime partner, Ted Leitner.
I don't know him well, but what I've heard, I'd say yes.
Yeah, I would say yes. But also, Ted was actually more of a character on TV. So at one point, Ted was doing a radio call-in show that was not just about sports. It was like everything. He was doing the 6 o'clock and 5 o'clock news for the CBS affiliate. And he was doing play-by-play for the Padres. And his idea of the hockey highlights was just showing fights. He would not show any goals whatsoever. He said, let's get to the hockey highlights. It would only be fights. And so my friends who loved hockey hated Ted. And Ted had an over-the-top, casual, conversational tone to his broadcasts. I think Ted was a character. Milo Hamilton.
Yeah, I think that Milo would absolutely resist this.
I've not heard a lot of Milo, but what I have heard, I don't think he's a character.
No.
Joe Castiglione.
You could
Does a
sway me
voice-
otherwise, but that's
Does
my
a
initial
voice
thought.
does a voice automatically make you a character?
I think you've got to have more things on top of that. What do you think?
I don't think he's trying to be a character.
No.
And I think that because he's been around so long and he sounds so different because of his voice, we've done an episode about Joe and how he's kind of leaned into it. Look, this is my voice. It's how it is. I don't think of him as a character. Now, there's these moments where there's a foul ball that goes into the booth and he falls down and he's still on the air. But like moments like that, I don't think make you a full-on character.
No.
So I say no for Castiglione.
He, very similar to John Sterling, as that New York-Boston connection. They were tied together and they switched places in the booth. And it's that same kind of sense of history to them. But I think that Sterling is showman and Castiglione is not.
Hawk Harrelson. It's a no-brainer. All right. Current broadcasters. Dave Sims. Is Dave Sims a character?
Good question. I would go thumbs in the middle. I think that he has his character moments and he's got his signature hat. He's got his signature calls. But I don't think he goes all the way there. What do you think?
Do you think that part of being a character is how you dress?
It can be.
Yeah. I think it absolutely can be. And I think part of like what John Sterling, again, he wore a suit, a tie, a pocket square every game, no matter how hot it was, even though he's on radio. And you think about what Harry Carey would wear, right? Yes, the glasses. And how much, look, when you're creating a character on Saturday Night Live, what they're wearing tells you who this person is as much as their words and how they deliver the words.
Well, loud sports coat. I mean, Howard Cosell created a character for himself. It was a guy that we skipped, another late broadcaster. Would you say that Bill King was a character?
Bill King was a Renaissance man.
Yes.
And off the field, he was a character. He painted. He went sailing. He went to the opera. He went to the ballet. He loved all of those things. He was a fascinating person to talk to about baseball and football and basketball and not about sports. On the air, I don't think he said Holy Toledo when he had this incredible vocabulary and he would roast the officials, especially in basketball. The handlebar mustache, maybe early in his career, he was a character. By the end of his career with the A's, I don't think he was as much of an on-air character. He was more of just, again, a Renaissance man.
Mm-hmm. An icon.
Mm-hmm. And, and to be clear, in case people don't watch this on a regular basis, my all-time favorite broadcaster, the one I grew up listening to, like the one that made me want to get into broadcasting more than anyone else, Lon Simmons, Hank Greenwald, and Bill King. Those are the top three that wanted me to get in. So speaking of those names, Lon Simmons. I didn't know he had this incredible booming voice that you would hear at the back of the restaurant, even if you were in the front. And he was, again, quick-witted, funny. I don't know if he was a character on the air. And Hank Greenwald, I would put very similar to Skip Carey. Dry-witted, funny, would make the game entertaining when it was a blowout. There was a lot of blowouts in the 80s with the Giants. But I don't think of him as like this full-on character the way that I would, some of the others, Harry Carey and John Sterling. He didn't have a bunch of catchphrases. He wasn't constantly doing shtick. He was just funny when he needed to be funny. Jason Benetti, back to modern broadcasters. Is Jason Benetti a character?
So I think Jason would say no, and I would say yes.
Do you think most people outside of the broadcasting world would consider him a character?
It's a good question. I think that Jason is very similar to John Miller. We've got a quick wit. We've got a guy who has mastered his pipes and has mastered the game and is above all else a master of language. So when you check out Jason on TV, it's similar to John, trying to figure out how to enhance the color commentator, how to make sure that it's their show. But there is so much of his personality that seeps through that a Jason Benetti broadcast is not a broadcast. It's a Benetti broadcast. You can feel it in every inch of it. So that's why I say that there is absolutely character to the way that he calls the game. And though we're just right now at the start of his peak, that I think that we are very much going to associate this is Benetti.
Are there any current active baseball broadcasters, play-by-play, I'm not talking about analysts, I'm not talking about pre and post, play-by-play baseball announcers, either in the major leagues or in the minor leagues, who you would say this person is a character?
By the way, of the legends that we didn't name, I think Red Barber was a character, the old redhead with the folksy sayings. I think Mel Allen absolutely cultivated a character for himself with How About That? I'm glad that you eliminated the color commentators, because the first one that came to mind was a color commentator and what Dallas Braden has cultivated for himself. Buck Martinez just retired in Toronto. When you talk about Castiglione, it's all about the voice. Buck, it was all about the voice. The voice was Buck's character, and everything came off of that. But with regard to other broadcasters around the industry, I wonder about Pat Hughes. That's one of the first to come to mind, that Pat has his catchphrases. He has his signature voice. He has his ways that he works with his partner, that there's something very much about Pat, that it's a Pat Hughes broadcast. Who would you say?
Well, that's why I brought it up, because I don't know if there's any outside of Dave Sims.
Right.
Like when you think about the national scale, Brian Anderson's not a character. Joe Davis, not a character, right?
Denny Matthews would absolutely resist it.
Okay.
Like Denny Matthews wants to just call the game. And then you've got Kuiper in San Francisco.
Kuiper and Kruk.
Yeah, Kuiper and Kruk together.
Yes, together as a tandem, I think they complement each other in such a way that they are characters together. So what I'm wondering is,
to that end, the Padres TV booth, Don Orsillo has created something in San Diego of a character for himself.
Yeah, I think that he's much more of a character now than he was with the Red Sox. And I think that Mark Grant, who I love, Mud, because Mud is such a character, I think that has brought out the license for Orsillo to be a character together. I think that they are characters together. But it makes me wonder, Jesse, do you become a character later in your career? Is it almost like you need 10, 15 years to have established yourself as a real broadcaster? We did an entire episode about the journey of Harry Carey, how he was not the Harry Carey at the end, is totally different than Harry Carey at the beginning when he was with the Cardinals and then with the A's and then with the White Sox. And do you evolve into a character because you just kind of get older and maybe you get a little curmudgeon and maybe you don't care quite as much and maybe the employers are just like, whatever, he's been here 20 years, he can say that if he wants to. Like, I don't know if anyone can come in day one and be a character even 30 years ago, let alone now.
Uke was not Uke in the 70s. Uke had to grow into Uke. And I think that his time with Johnny Carson really helped out. However, John Sterling was using all of his catchphrases in the 90s. And he was still relatively early on with the Yankees. Now, in his major league broadcasting career, he's into his second decade. I think, though, that John Sterling was a character early with the Yankees. I think that he created that with the way that he called the game, with the pipes, with the chemistry, and with those catchphrases. And if a broadcaster bursts into baseball today and starts pulling out catchphrases left and right, I do think that there's a segment of the population that misses it from SportsCenter, that grew up with the catchphrase culture and is now going, not enough broadcasters use catchphrases. I love Bill Raftery's. I love, you can name this person here. And that there is a segment of the population that if that broadcaster goes about things the right way, oh yeah, you could absolutely create it.
Okay, so based on that, would you, like, I'm thinking out loud here that because of the internet, because of social media, because of Twitter, it is harder to become a character because it is easier to jump on that person who is being a character, who is jumping on that person with the catchphrases, that all of these characters that we've talked about, they all were characters before social media. And then the characters went from the radio booth to SportsCenter. And now it's more like the characters are the John Boys. It's those who are the social media influencers. It's the analysts like the Dallas Bradens, a John Kruk, someone who has been out of the game and they were known as a character, as a player, and so this persona continues. But I would say that it's harder for a play-by-play announcer and someone young breaking in because the characters have moved which medium they're using now.
Yeah, that's why I think that Benetti's got a leg up, because he is so clever with his language, and people notice that. Do you know when we see those catchphrases or when we see that playing around with the language it is the caption on the social media post. The people who are doing the most dynamite things are the social media managers for every single team. Those captions, the phrases, what they put up on the video board, the different things. That's genius. That's where all of your creativity is. If you're the broadcaster, call it, get out of the way. We're going to post it.
Wow. All right, this episode was supposed to be about John Sterling. Let's get back to some John Sterling stuff. What do you say, huh? So let's go back to his time with the Atlanta Braves. There's a couple of things that I want us to see. One is super famous. One is not all that important, but I just think it's cool. So let's go back and take a look at these.
Toyota Tercel four-wheel drive wagon. Now at your local Toyota dealers. By the people in your town who bring you delicious, refreshing Coca-Cola. When it comes to big refreshment, Coke is it. By Canon, the official 35mm camera of the 1984 Olympics. By Gulf Oil, for at Gulf, everything we do makes driving better for you. And by Cable News Network and CNN Headline News.
Hi, everybody. Along with John Sterling, this is Pete Van Weren welcoming you to Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati, where this afternoon the Braves try to hang on to first place in the National League West. They lead it now by 1/2 game over the Dodgers, and they've won 4 in a row. And, John, it was about a year ago, the last week in June, the Braves came in and swept a 5-game set, and they'll try to do the same here this afternoon.
Yeah, at that point last year, the Braves were coming off a West Coast trip, and they kind of salvaged the trip for them. Here is the very beginning of a trip, and it's been just great for the Braves, because they're winning without the big guys, but getting a lot of support top to bottom in the order. And, you know, the Braves pitching, very maligned, has really been doing a very, very good job in the past couple of weeks.
It has been, and Len Barker will try to continue that this afternoon. We'll be back with all the action right after this.
All right, so I just wanted us to see that because, number one, I wanted to see a young John Sterling, and I wanted people to realize that he was wearing a pocket square even in the 80s, right, when he was on WTBS, the Superstation, and he just kind of had like this, I don't know, there's something about this glimmer that he had in his eyes, like, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. Okay,
Oh, he was cheesing. He's having the time of his life. There's Pete, broadcast professional, and there's John just delighting in it. I'm loving the whole throwback nature of the entire thing. Coke is it.
Yeah.
Coke is it. Coke is it.
All right. Well, when it comes to the John Sterling career with the Braves, there is one moment that is so above all the others that it's hard to find any other moments on the internet of John Sterling doing Braves play-by-play. There's some. There's just not a lot because this is the all-time classic. And so without further ado, let's get to this.
Well, this is why you always save a player. This is absolutely the reason. I thought the Braves did the right thing. They let Runge take a shot at winning it, and he hit the ball well. But now 2 outs and no one on. The Mets are waving their outfielders in. The whole Met team waving their outfielders in. Here's Rick Camp with a game on the line. 2 outs and no one on base. And at least he took a good cut and fouled it off. Ernie, if he hits a home run to tie this game, this game will be certified as absolutely the nuttiest in the history of baseball.
Well, they could go to another pitcher, but in 18 innings, they've used just about everybody.
No, the only 3 guys left are Bedrosian, Perez, and Zane Smith. There's a strike 0-2.
So they've researched that. And they figured that Camp is the best hitter of the 3 left.
It'll be an 0-2 pitch. And he hits it to deep left. Heat goes back. It is gone. Holy cow. Oh, my goodness. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Rick Camp. Rick Camp. I don't believe it. Remember what I just said, if he hits a home run, that certifies this game as the wackiest, wildest, most improbable game in history. On an 0-2 pitch, Rick Camp hit it over the left center field wall. I don't believe it. If you only knew on the Braves, we kid Rick Camp about his hitting more than anything. Ernie.
Nobody can believe it. Camp makes it 11-11, his first Major League homer.
I mean, that is the most improbable act. Let's see it again, Ernie.
We got to look at this another 50 times. It's out of here.
And it hit the football bleachers. I mean, if you told me that John Sterling's going to run for president and win, that wouldn't be any more improbable. And I got to tell you, that's improbable. Unbelievable.
Okay, so for people who don't know, there was like 3 rain delays in that game. We finally heard the score there, 11-11 in the 18th inning. We saw the reaction from Ray Knight at third base, from Danny Heap in left field. The game finally ended at something like 3:30 in the morning. The Braves still shot off fireworks that night. A bunch of people were complaining that they thought that they were being bombed by the Russians or whatever it was. The Mets still ended up winning that game in 19 innings. It is known as the Rick Camp game. And John Sterling's description, I think, helps what makes that highlight endure year after year after year.
How old was John Sterling when he made that call? Do you remember?
Okay, so that was, I think, 1985, somewhere around that time. So that would have been, roughly 40 years ago, and he died in his 80s, right? So he would have been, like, early 40s, if I'm doing the math right?
47.
47.
John Sterling was born on the 4th of July. That game was started on the 4th of July, although, as you said, it wasn't finished on the 4th of July. It was finished on the 5th. And so he's already 47, and it's 1985, and his delight at this call as he's going through everything, holy cow, and oh my goodness, and unbelievable. I think that's a huge part of the reason why people love Sterling. His personality is firmly injected in this, and you can feel him feel the moment.
Yeah. He says, I don't believe it. And then he gets in how much we make fun of him for his hitting around the cage.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you have like the Stillman Gurney Johnson saying, well, there's 3 options and they've researched it and they figured out which one has got the best chance here. And no, it was the 18th inning. He was already pitching. They just left him in.
Ernie loses his words.
Yeah.
John does not lose his words. And to have the presence of mind, Josh, I think that this is actually a very difficult thing to remember what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
That he was able to reflect on what he had said during the at-bat, I think takes great self-presence.
If he hits a home run here, this game will go down as the nuttiest game in baseball history. And then it happens. So I think that's actually one of the cool things that you throw out, because you throw out a phrase like that and he strikes out and the game's over. Nobody remembers. No one cares. But if you do throw out that line and Rick Camp does hit a home run, we're talking about it 40 years later.
And then to be so self-deprecatory, right? John Sterling running for president. Yes. He goes third person on himself.
Yeah. And I think that's where we can really see, like, okay, there's a character there. He may not have all the catchphrases at that point in his career, but there's a character. Like you can hear it in his voice. You can see the glimmer in his eye during the stand-up.
That he's the center of the broadcast. There's such mischief and fun, and how can you not lean in and enjoy?
Yeah. All right, let's get to some more of his Yankees clips, starting with one from before he really leaned into the element at the end of a broadcast.
Line to deep right field. It is high. It is far. It is gone. No. It's a dramatic 3-run home run. The Yankees beat Boston 6-5. The Yankees win. The Yankees win.
So that's before we get the Sterling shake.
Oh, if you don't mind, I would like us to talk a little bit about this home run call. That it is high, it is far, it is gone. It's so signature Sterling. And then he started putting on the player-specific things at the end. But one immediate pushback that I would have for someone who approached me and said, I've got a new home run call, here it is. John Sterling, at this point, is only starting the home run call when he knows it's gone. This is going to lead him into trouble when he tries to start it early a little bit later on. But one of my favorite things about gone for a home run call is you can wait. You're not sure. Is it going to get caught? No, it's gone. And you just punch it the second that the ball hits the stands. This takes some time. And so he's got to say the whole home run call over the crowd's euphoria. What do you make of it?
So the biggest problem with home run calls that are the same every single time is that not every home run is high
or far.
That was a line drive home run. It was not high. It was not all that deep. It was gone. So one of the three was correct. And, look, I don't use the same home run call every single time. And number one is because I don't want to get caught going into my home run call and then make a mistake on it. I also want to save it for the biggest moments, for the ones that are most dramatic, that really mean something. And also, again, like that last call, that was not high. It was a line drive. It's not deep. I mean, it was deep enough. So that would be the biggest reason why you would not use a home run call every single time.
Let's put it right next to Kipes. He hits it high. He hits it deep. Out of here. Because I think that in a vacuum, I would hear it is high, it is far, it is gone. He hits it high, he hits it deep, out of here. And I'd go, well, that's really tough. And how are you going to do that every single time? Mm-hmm. Sterling made it work, to the point of ridicule it sometimes. But when you are able to use your great voice to really taste the high, far, gone, like you can punch that, and it's an escalation of phrase. Deep, far, out of here. It becomes signature. No one can ever pirate that from you. All they can do is do an impression of you. When they do, everyone knows who they're talking about. And that's flattering.
Do you think that the better your voice is, the bigger your pipes are, the easier it is to have a catchphrase?
I think that a person needs to understand how to use their voice optimally. It's the same way Jacob Mizorowski might be able to throw 103, but how do you use that 103? Whereas this pitcher throws 94, but how do you use that 94? I think we have, in the case of Sterling, in the case of Kipe, in the case of a few others, guys who understood how to use their voice. John's got this gorgeous voice, but when you hear the Rick Camp moment, that's something else coming through the voice. That isn't pipes. That's feel. You can feel Kipe. There is heart that is getting injected into the voice too. And that's what's so delightful. The Sterling shake, the punching the air, that is something beyond a voice that is reaching out to the audience.
And here is Posada. Now, for Posada, who has one of the hits, a double and 3 trips, he has to get on base. Well, first of all, he doesn't get on base. The game, the World Series, and the season is over. But also, if he gets on base, that gives the Yankees one shot at it with Giambi to tie it. And there's a guy who hit 40 home runs this year. Now, let's see if Posada can get on and give the Yankees a chance. 2 outs, no one on. We're in the ninth. Now Beckett to the 1, and the pitch is pop foul straight. Back in the count 0-1. Posada and Bernie Williams have doubles. Garcia a single, and Soriano 2 singles. But one thing, Beckett has not allowed more than 1 hit in any inning. And that'll be an 0-1. Breaking ball low on the count 1-1. And in only 1 inning has Beckett allowed 2 men on base. That was in the 3rd. Soriano singled. On a hit and run, Jeter grounded out. Soriano went to 2nd. And Nick Johnson walked. Here's the 1-1. Swung on and grounded weakly toward first.
Beckett fields, runs into Posada, gets the tag on. Ball game over. World Series over. Marlins win. The Florida Marlins are the new world champions of baseball. They defeat the Yankees 4-2, winning a 2-0 shutout in Game 6 at Yankee Stadium behind the brilliant pitching of Josh Beckett. So you have to give the Marlins all the credit in the world. They deserve it. They richly deserve it. You can talk about the run the Yankees gave away, but there was one legit run, and the Yankees didn't score a run. You don't score a run, sorry, you don't have any chance of winning the ball game. So the Florida Marlins are the 2003 world champions. Their second championship. Their first in 1997. I don't know who the MVP is, but if Charlie and I had a vote, which we don't, we would vote for Josh Beckett. Charlie, Josh Beckett was fabulous.
All right. What do you think?
I think that this shows a quality of John that you and I have heard before, and that is loves baseball. Loves baseball. And so he calls this, he lets you know exactly how we've gotten to this point. The Yankees struggles against Beckett. And on this final out, there is enthusiasm. There is the crowning of a champion. You're New York, New York in the background. You never know. His team that he's called the games for has lost. There's such a great appreciation for the season, for the crowning of the champ, and for baseball as a whole. He just saw great pitching, and he is lauding it.
It was almost like the at-bat lasted the exact number of pitches it needed to last so that John could recap what's happened in the game. This is the number of hits. This is the number of base runners. This is the only time the Yankees have had 2 runners on base. But yet, if Posada can just get on base, Giambi's on deck, right? And the way the Yankees were in the 2000s, you just always thought someone was going to hit a home run to tie it and keep the game going and keep the series going. And so I think that it's just the ultimate in recap and call it. Yeah, I think he's outstanding here. He's absolutely outstanding here.
Yeah. Marlins win. And there's such sincerity in how he crowns them as champions.
Yeah, he even
there's no backhand compliment here.
Yeah, he says they deserve it. They absolutely deserve it. It's almost like he's trying to say to fans who are like, oh, they didn't really deserve it. He's like, no, they deserve it. They absolutely deserve it.
Yeah, he's trying to forestall any of the complaints. Oh, the run, and this run should have scored, and that. No. You need to score runs in order to win. It didn't. And I don't know who's going to be the MVP, but that guy, that pitcher right there, he deserves it.
Yeah. Yep. All right, a couple more before we wrap up this episode. And one of the things that I think is so great about Sterling's longevity and his consecutive games broadcast streak is that he called every single one of Derek Jeter's games. Every single one. I mean, how many other broadcasters can say that they called every single game of a Hall of Fame baseball player's career?
Not many.
Very few, if any, right? I don't think the Orioles had the same broadcaster every game for Cal Ripken.
Was
the Padres win? Could be Bob Uecker. But again, did Uecker take any days off? That's part of it too. It's not just you were there every season, but were you there every single game?
Yeah.
So let's get into one of the iconic plays of Derek Jeter. And of course, John Sterling is describing it.
It'll be a 1-2 to Nixon. And Sturt steals, swung on, and popped up in back of short. Jeter on the run, makes a one-handed running catch, and dives into the photographer's area. Oh, what a play by Jeter. You can't believe it. He raced, he caught it, and to break and boy, did he get beat up. He is beat up and bloody in his face. What a play by Jeter. A running catch, and to break his momentum, he dove into the photographer's area, and he's got a cut-up face what a player. Derek Jeter, what a player. You can't say enough about him. What is he? He's a winner. That's what he is. He's a flat-out winner.
No runs, 1 hit, 2 left. And now at the end of 11 and a half, we're tied at 3 on the Yankees radio network.
We're going through the emotions there, right? So first we've got the normal play call, and we've got him going into the photographer's area. Then we've got Sterling reacting to how Derek Jeter has emerged. And then you can just feel the whole thing sinking in to the point where he's just trying to search for the words as how to describe this kid.
For those who forgot or were too young to remember, back at this time, it was very much this golden era of shortstops. There was Nomar, there was A-Rod, and there was Jeter, and someone in Oakland would say there's Miguel Tejada. So who is the best? And so there's the counting numbers, and then there's the MVPs, and then there's the World Series, and then there was plays like this. And if I remember correctly, Nomar Garciaparra was not in the lineup that day. There was some type of injury. And the camera kept panning to Nomar, who was not playing, and showing Derek Jeter, the pretty boy who gets all the supermodels, whose face is bloody because he dove into the stands. And you see a fan waving, he needs help. You know, in the slow motion replay, you can see the cleat nearly hit a fan in the head as he gets up. And the tricky part about this, too, is it's really easy to go to commercial break too soon, right? I know I think about this. Somebody makes an amazing play to end the inning. You want to give it you want to justify the call. Back in my mind, I'm thinking I got 90 seconds. I don't want to miss the first pitch back in the next half inning. Maybe the pitch timer wasn't as big of a deal back then. You could get away with it. But I think that Sterling calls this, and then he gets to the commercial break without rushing into it, Jesse.
I do think that this is another it is high, it is far, it is gone moment in terms of I would not advise a younger broadcaster to do the same thing. John Sterling, just like with Rick Camp, keeps talking. Mm-hmm. He talks. And he's going to talk until he gets to where he wants to get to, right? This is Yankee radio. He's the radio broadcaster. There's the feeling of this is a ridiculous play. You call it, you let the crowd react, you come back in, and then you add your secondary detail. But John's not going to stop talking.
What a player. He's a winner. That's what it is. He's a winner, right?
Yes.
Brain is trying to get the words out.
Which this is where, to go back to the larger point, the character of Sterling comes to the forefront. It is John Sterling trying to sum up this latest moment of heroism from the Yankee captain. And he's just going to stand there at the microphone and he's going to go through his emotions until he gets there.
All right. We didn't want to make this episode making fun of John for some of the mistakes that he made at the end of his career, but this is the end of the episode. And so let's end with what we hope people do not completely think about with John Sterling, but how it's hard not to. And this is the pitfall of when you have a home run call.
Here's the 1-0. Swung on, there it goes. Deep left center. That ball is high. It is far. It is gone. But caught.
Okay, so here's a pitfall of John. And there's a little bit too, as he got on in years, there were moments when he'd put his mouth into automatic. And he could just feel this is going to be an automatic call, whatever it was. Remember, there was a ground ball down to third for Alex Rodriguez. And John was already, he grabs, he throws, and that's when he realized that Rodriguez had not actually fielded the ball cleanly. But he already had that ball getting thrown across. He just puts it into automatic. And then you just got to take that step back and go, well, but that was also the fun of John, because he's got the voice and because he's going to go into these things. I think if you are someone who just appreciated him, this is just something that made him all the more lovable. Okay, that's John.
So I think that when you're teaching someone how to do play-by-play, or when you're first learning, it's very easy. We've talked about this on many episodes. So describe the outfielder. So in that case, you can say, that's Raimel Tapia's in left field, former Isotope, shout out. You can say Tapia is going back. He's on the warning track. He's at the wall. And this one makes it easier to see. Your eyes are on him. And so you can see that he makes the catch. But when you immediately get into your home run call, then you're going to miss that when you start to go into autopilot. When we had Joe Davis on, there was a home run call that Joe hated, and he broke down how he spent too much time describing the outfielder, and the emphasis of the word was on the outfielder's name instead of the moment of the home run. So that's where the balance comes in between using what the outfielder is doing to make sure that you don't make a mistake, but then immediately switching over so that you punch it with the right words, whether that's your home run call or whatever words that is that you want to use. But again, to repeat myself, I think from a fundamental standpoint, you start by looking at the outfielder, you start by describing the outfielder, and it's going to dramatically lessen the chances of you making a huge gaffe like that.
I'm glad you mentioned Joe, because that's something as I've gone on as a broadcaster, I've realized that for no doubt home runs, don't say the outfielder. That becomes a trap. To constantly be talking about the outfielder goes back, looks up, it's gone, or whatever it might be. If it's a no doubt home run, just go right into it. Just track the ball and track where it lands. Leave the outfielder out of it entirely. But if you leave the outfielder out of it entirely and the outfielder's still got a shot, you end up with egg on your face. So you've got to understand what is the trajectory of the ball. That's where you can get fooled. And John got fooled.
Yeah. All right. Before we wrap things up, any other thoughts about characters and how much maybe broadcasters should strive to be a character?
I think there's such a great gravity to understanding who you are and what people love about you. And the fact that John Sterling is able to combine a lot of difficult ingredients that could stand up on their own. He could have been a guy that was only about his pipes. He could have been a guy that was only about his catchphrases. He could have been a guy that was only about the love of the game or the silliness. And he's able to incorporate the sense of humor, the catchphrases, the absolute respect and love for the game of baseball, and how he can use his voice as an instrument. And he put that all together. And because of that, that's why people revere him, admire him, love him, and miss him. So I would say to a broadcaster, the idea is, who are you? What is it that you bring to the table? And it's not just one thing. It's not just two things. Really look yourself in the mirror and say, what am I bringing to this broadcast that sets me apart from everyone else, that helps enhance this game?
I think that's one of the hardest things to figure out when you're starting out, whether you're in college, whether you're in the minor leagues, whether you just got your first shot in the major leagues, because there's not a lot of teams that want that. Teams don't want to deal with, can you believe what the radio guy said in yesterday's game, especially if you make a mistake? And it's really easy to just blend in with everybody else. It's so much easier to hear everybody else. It's really hard not to make your style a combination of other people's styles. It's really, you got to have thick skin to do this business. There's people who like listening to sporting events and criticizing the broadcasters. Awfulannouncing.com got its start by making fun of broadcasters. I think it's very easy to want to call a game in a way that it's impossible for people to make fun of you. And in the process of that, you become really dull. And so you need to have extremely thick skin. You need to have an employer that kind of gets it. But it's also something that I do really believe it has to evolve. I think it's really hard to just immediately have this style. My style is different now than it was 13 years ago when I started with the Isotopes. It's not drastically different. I'm not doing huge shtick, but I feel like there's times that I want to put my personality into it a little bit more, that I want to lean into the silliness of it, that I'm going to let my mind just kind of go off in these tangents, especially if it's a boring game in the middle of the innings, something like that. And then hopefully you then get to a point where you are secure with yourself, and then you can start to do the things that John Sterling did, that Dave Niehaus did, that, some of the others who were definitely characters did.
Yeah. John had to go a long time working through a lot of quote unquote minor leagues and other sports, and not the top. And that's why I wanted to point out that for Rick Camp, he was 47 and he had figured out who he was on the air. So by the time he got to the Yankees, he was fully John Sterling. That's what we're working towards. It's Miles Davis paraphrased. Just keep on working to sound more and more like yourself.
I like that. Good way to end it. All right. Close us out, Jesse.
Yeah. In tribute to John Sterling. And what a great conversation about baseball character and character on the microphone. For Josh Suchon, the voice of the Albuquerque Isotopes, I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler, voice of the Lansing Lugnuts. Here's to you finding your own character and displaying true high character. And this is Crafting the Call.